Hey, Kelsey. I heard you bought a new house. Apparently it's detached, too. Get you, Missy.
Hi, Sally. It's been a while. That's right. It is detached, but it's nothing too fancy, really. It's not like it's new or anything.
I heard it's huge, though. I'm so pleased for you. Sounds to me like you're all set to live the good life. I'm actually a little jealous.
Not at all. It was old and run down, so we got it way cheaper than the market price. It might look okay from the outside, but believe me, we had our work cut out with the renovations and repairs. I wouldn't go as far as calling it huge, though it is a lot more spacious than the old one. You know how much bigger they build them in the countryside?
But you renovated it, right? I bet it looks like a palace now. Renovating your own house seems to be all the rage lately. Just the other week, I heard about my friend's friend reforming his whole house. I've seen TV shows about it too. Just yesterday afternoon, I was watching one called Peeps Designs. Everyone's doing it.
Well, I guess you're not wrong. You do hear about it a lot now.
Anyway, enough beating around the bush. Are you gonna tell me or what? When's the big day? When are you moving in? When?
Next month.
That's really soon. I wish you'd have told me earlier. I am your mother-in-law, you know.
I did plan on telling you sooner. I've just been busy with all sorts of things, that's all. Sorry I kept you out of the loop all this time.
That lazy son of mine almost never gets in touch with me, you know. I get the feeling that if I didn't text and call him, we'd never speak. I sometimes wonder if he still holds what happened between us. in the past against me.
Do you by any chance mean that time you and his dad stole the money from his scholarship when he was in college?
Oh, you know about that? Come on, dear. Stole is a bit drastic.
Yeah, I know. I don't think it's drastic at all. I heard all about how you gambled away his entire scholarship fund on the slots at the casino.
Oopsies. Weren't we just the naughtiest? Not just the casino either. My husband used his fair share on horse racing.
He had to work 2 jobs while studying for a master's in biochemistry because of what you guys did. He told me it was the hardest period of his life. He literally had no free time and was getting by on cup noodles, 3 hours of sleep a night, and ungodly amounts of coffee. As if that wasn't bad enough on its own, he said your dad took most of his wages too.
We were going through a really difficult patch back then. Without Anthony's help, we would have never been able to keep up with the absurd repayments on our debts. Can you believe it's even legal for them to make us pay that much? I know it can't have been very easy for my son, but, well, whatever. It's ancient history now. What is family for if not helping each other out in a pinch?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe not getting them into pinches in the first place? Besides, Anthony ended up being the one responsible for the repayments on the scholarship money you stole. Not only that, but he had to bear all the burden by himself, and was threatened with expulsion from college if he didn't keep with them up. Is all of this true?
Yup, sure is. What of it? Are you surprised? It was his scholarship. Obviously, he was gonna be the one who paid it back. And of course, there would be consequences if he... Besides, it's not like we spent all of it. He had plenty left to use as he saw fit. It's an undeniable fact that some of it got spent on college stuff and living costs, you know. Books, stationery, food, and of the like. Of course he should pay it back. He signed the documents, so he has a duty.
I just can't shake the feeling that his share of the burden was disproportionate with how much he actually got to spend on the stuff the scholarship was intended for in the first place.
What exactly is the problem here? It all worked out in the end. He's working for a major global company now, right? Not only that, but you're rich enough to be able to afford a huge detachable house in the countryside, so things can't be all that bad. A few measly repayments on his scholarship are hardly gonna break the bank. This is hardly as dramatic as you're making it out to be. Most importantly, he agreed to do it. It's not like we did anything behind his back.
I see.
Anyway, forget that. This is old news, and we have much more important matters to discuss. Which reminds me, there was something I wanted to talk to you about.
Something important?
Yes, very, very important. Me and my husband have decided to move in with you both in your new house. Which means we'll be seeing you next month, Kelsey, my dear.
Excuse me? Is my phone broken? Am I reading this right? You're moving in with us?
You certainly are. You didn't think you were gonna be able to buy a big luxurious house like that and not share it with your beloved in-laws, did you? Let's be real here, that place is far too big for just... You'd be bored and lonely without us. It just so happens that me and my husband have been wanting to live in a big old house in the country for years now. It even has a yard, doesn't it? I'm so excited. I have all sorts of ornaments to decorate the lawn with. We couldn't believe it when we heard the news. The timing was so good anyone would think it was fate.
Whoa! Just slow down a second, Sally. You can't just invite yourself to live with me and Anthony all of a sudden. Have you even mentioned it to him yet? Because this is the first time I've heard of it.
Don't worry about him. He's always been a mommy's boy. He'll be over the moon when he finds out he's going to be able to see me every single day. He always was such a good, obedient child, and he's no different now.
But still, it's not fair of you to spring this on us like this. That house was supposed to be for me and him to live in. We do have circumstances of our own, you know. What makes you think we're in any position to accommodate you?
Circumstances? What kind of circumstances?
Anthony's suffering with an illness. We found out a couple of days ago. He has cancer.
What? Cancer?
To get hit with a bombshell like that right before moving into our new place. We haven't come to terms with it yet and our heads are a mess. He hasn't started chemotherapy yet, but the doctors say things could get rough. We have a lot of preparing to do for the fight ahead. That's why we're simply not in any position to consider having you move in with us right now.
On the contrary, all the more reason for us to move in with you. Let me help you nurse him back to health. This just settles it. We absolutely have to come now. It's times like this that family needs to pull together to be there for one another.
No, it's fine, really. I can take care of things myself. The bottom line here is that we're in no position to take you in. Are you listening to me? It's not happening.
I'm listening to you, but have you heard yourself? What you're saying is ridiculous. Why would you put all that pressure on yourself when there's someone offering to help you? Who are you, super nurse? What if you get sick too? What good is a convalescent bedridden mess to my poor son? Even if I just stick to housework, the burden on you would be a damn sight easier to deal with. Picture it, it's the ideal situation. I deal with everything around the house while you focus solely on nursing my boy back to health.
Sure, it would be nice to be able to give him my undivided attention.
Right? I'm glad you're coming around to my way of thinking, sweetie. I always knew you had a good head on your shoulders. Leave it to me. Let's all live together as one big happy family.
Sally? What on earth is going on here? The house looks like a bomb site. I go out for one day and I come back to find the place looking like a hoarder's den?
Welcome home, sweetie. If you're back, why don't you be a dear and get to work on the housework right away? The kitchen's dirty.
How about you do something yourself for a change? Not only that, but you need to stop forcing Anthony to drive you places. He's going through the worst phase of the side effects right now. He's barely fit to walk around on his own, let alone drive the damn car.
But it was raining. What else was I supposed to do? You're a clever girl. I'm sure you understand I had no choice. It's impossible to get anywhere living in the middle of nowhere without the car. Why did you have to buy a house this far from civilization in the first place?
What does the location of our house have to do with you forcing your seriously ill son to chauffeur you around like you're a freaking aristocrat? Those are two completely different issues. You have to stop this.
I do wish you'd shut up already. You're like a broken record. If the thought of your husband driving the car is so unconscionable to you, why don't you take me out yourself? It's easy to talk, but are you willing to put your money where your mouth is?
Where exactly do you need to go so desperately? You don't even have a job.
I like going into town. We live in the middle of nowhere. There are nothing but farms and mountains for as far as the eye can see. I'd go senile sitting around the house all day. The only reason I get Anthony to take me places is because you're nowhere to be seen. He could rest more if you weren't so unavailable.
Why do you think I'm not available? I do have a job. You know, my husband is in no fit to work, let alone drive a car. I'm working for both of us to make up for the hit we took with him. Having to take time off work.
And we highly appreciate your efforts, sweetie. I assure you. That reminds me, I ran out of money again this week. Can I have another $400?
Excuse me? Wow, are you saying you spent the money I gave you already? I only gave it to you 3 days ago.
Oh, please, Kelsey, did you really expect that to last me more than 5 minutes? It was pocket change. I lost it all in the slots of the casino.
You blew the money I gave you to get on by the slots? Oh my god, Sally, has your husband been going to the casino with you too?
Who knows? He's probably walking around the streets with a can of beer in one hand and a cigarette in the other. Seen him in 3 days. He's probably loitering in an alley somewhere, making people uncomfortable for all I know.
I didn't want to have to say this to you, but you guys are spending too much money. I don't care if you're my in-laws. Wrong is wrong and this can't go on. We live together, for crying out loud. Would it kill you to have a little more consideration for me and your son?
What's the problem? Are you saying me and my husband shouldn't have hobbies? If you're gonna be like that, I'll just ask Anthony instead. My darling boy. I know I can always count on him to look out for me. He'd go to the bank or rush out to find an ATM in a heartbeat if I asked him to.
Don't you dare! He's undergoing cancer treatment, damn it! He's fast asleep and you will not bother him. Fine, you win. I'll give you more money.
Excellent. I knew you'd see things my way before long. You're a smart cookie after all. Me and my husband are gonna need $400 each this time.
You're asking me for $800? There's no way I can afford that. You'll have to get by on half.
You greedy tightwad. Surely with the amount of hours you're working, a poxy $800 shouldn't be a big deal.
I have to draw the line somewhere. You're gonna gamble us out of this house if you keep this up.
What's the big deal? Just convince Anthony to retire early. He'll get a nice, juicy severance package, and our money worries will be a thing of the past.
No way! Anthony loves his job. He's looking forward to going back to work. It's a huge motivating force for him. And I don't think he'd have it in him to fight this cancer with the same level of determination without it. If he quits, who's to say he won't lose the will to fight the disease? And then what?
Stop being so selfish. It's time to face reality, Kelsey. My son is incapable of working as things stand, and that's not set to change anytime soon. How are new employees supposed to join the company with him clogging up the roster by being too stubborn to know when to leave? Leaving them hanging in the balance like that is unfair. It would be better for everyone if he just left.
Don't even say things like that. My husband is no quitter. He isn't giving up and I won't give up on him. He will absolutely go back to work. I've never been more sure of anything in my life.
Oh, to be young. One day, when you grow up, you'll realize blind faith never gets you anywhere. It's time to stop being so naive and childish and accept the harsh realities of life. Kelsey, I'm going for a few drinkies with the girls before I come home this evening. I won't be needing any supper.
I see. In that case, I won't be able to come and pick you up. Please make your own way back in a taxi or get a lift from a friend.
Huh? Are you joking? It's your day off work today. Are you telling me you'd rather laze around on your butt eating potato chips than give your elderly mother a lift home?
I'm busy. Anthony's funeral might be out of the way now, but I still have tons of stuff to take care of.
Ah, yes, the funeral. I was blown away by how big the turnout was. I had no idea he was loved and respected by so many people. He was always so shy and introverted. It's hard to imagine him having that many friends.
Everyone loved Anthony because of how kind he was. He was a good man who would do anything for anyone.
Yes, my Anthony was 1 in a million. It's just a shame he left us so young.
Right.
Anyway, the funeral's over now. So we really should get around to dealing with his belongings? Most of them are going to have to go in the trash, of course.
Why? What's the rush? Can't we at least wait until it doesn't all feel so raw? He's barely been in the ground 5 minutes and you're talking about tossing his things in the trash?
Why wait? It's going to happen eventually, so we may as well do it now. We need to clear out the room he spent his final weeks laid up in bed in. I want to turn it into my own personal hobby parlor.
We're not clearing out his things.
Why not? It's not like we're gonna use them anymore. Besides, this is not your decision to make. I make the rules from now on. Me and you are strangers now, and strangers aren't welcome in my home.
Wow, what's that supposed to mean?
It's exactly what it sounds like. Without my son here, you're nothing more than a stranger, no different to someone I'd pass by on the street.
Are you trying to kick me out of the house?
Bingo! I knew you'd get it eventually. Well done, sweetie. Think about it. Me and you aren't related by blood. I tolerated you when my son was around for his sake, but there's no reason for us to carry on living together now. This house rightfully belongs to me and my husband as a memento of my son. You're trespassing, so get out.
Wow, so that's what you really think of me, huh? I see. You know what? You're right. Strangers don't have any right to live in other people's house. I'll make the necessary moving preparations immediately.
I'm so pleased you didn't make this any harder than it needs to be. Make it quick.
Understood. I agree. The quicker we get this over with, the better. Okay, that settles in. I want you and your husband out of this house by tomorrow.
Excuse me? Me and my husband leave? What are you talking about? You know, dear, anyone would think you're trying to get rid of us. The only one leaving this house is you.
That's where you're wrong. You and your husband are the ones who'll be leaving.
I've never heard anything more preposterous in my life. Are you trying to make me die of laughter? My son bought this house. It's only natural that it goes to his parents.
Are you just trying to get a rise out of me? Or do you actually believe that? I was Anthony's wife, which means I'm first in line to inherit his assets. I'm the owner of this house. I want you to know that I had no intention of doing this before you tried booting me out. But you forced my hand. I want you and your husband gone by tomorrow evening, and that's final.
How could you? My son would be turning in his grave if he could hear you right now. He'd never allow this. He's the one who let us live here in the first place.
Well, Anthony's gone. Which means I no longer have to tolerate your selfish shenanigans or walk on eggshells around you for fear of causing a big row. From now on, when it comes to anything to do with this house, my word is law, and you will do what I say.
Why, you impertinent little upstart. You think you have the right to tell me what to do? I'm your mother-in-law. Show some respect. If you get cocky with me, it'll be the last thing you do. I promise you that. It'll be the last thing you do. I promise you that, little girl.
You might not have realized this before because of how much I was holding back for Anthony's sake, but me and him are completely different. I have no intention of blindly obeying the irrational commands of a selfish, domineering control freak with delusions of grandeur. You have no authority over me, Sally.
But you did everything I told you up until now. Why are you—
I was so obedient all this time was for my husband's sake. He was in a bad enough way as it was with the cancer and the chemotherapy. The last thing he needed was me and you at each other's throats all the time. He was bedridden for crying out loud. Think about that. How would you feel if you were gravely ill and surrounded by an atmosphere of conflict and hatred 24/7? I wasn't obeying you. I was merely tolerating you.
Does that mean it's okay to disrespect his wishes now just because he's gone?
I'm not disrespecting anything. The last thing Anthony would want is for me to be unhappy. And that's one thing that's guaranteed as long as you're around. Get out of this house as soon as possible. I'm prepared to take legal measures if you refuse.
Legal measures? Don't be so dramatic, dear.
If there's any doubt in your mind as to whom the rightful owner of this house is, then I'm willing to take the necessary steps to prove it to you once and for all. If there's a brain somewhere in that head of yours to stand on and disappear from my life forever.
Come on, Kelsey. This is going too far and you know it.
The idea of lawyers and judges is so unpleasant to you that I suggest you get out of this house because I'm 100% serious. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Just know that one of them involves you going to court. Both scenarios involve you and your husband getting out of this house, so you may as well make it quick.
Ugh, fine. Look, if you do insist on kicking us out, can you at least give us more time? Tomorrow is too soon. It's just too soon. We need more time to get our things together and find somewhere else to go. Surely you're not evil enough to force your elderly in-laws to live on the streets.
Try me. Who knows? Maybe I really am that evil.
Look, Kelsey, I understand you're stressed, and based on what you said, I get the feeling that over a year's worth of stress, upset, and dissatisfaction are coming to the surface in one big violent eruption right now. I get it, I do. But if we have to leave, we need to make some preparations first. Please, can we have a little more time?
This is probably just a ploy. You think if you can drag out your stay a little longer, I'll calm down and change my mind, don't you? I'm beyond sick and tired of your lies. I was opposed to you moving in with us in the first place, but you sweet-talked me by promising to help with housework and looking after Anthony. That help never materialized, did it? To the contrary, you used the two of us as your personal slaves, butlers, and chauffeurs, paying no mind whatsoever to the fact that your own son was terminally ill. To think you actually forced your son, who was barely capable of walking, to drive you to your friend's house so you could eat cakes and drink coffee with your friends three times in the same week?
First things first, the only reason I couldn't help with looking after Anthony in the housework was because I've had a bad back lately. I wanted to help you more than anything. Truly I did, but I was in so much pain.
You were well enough to gamble on the slots at the casino all day. You should have been more than capable of lending us a helping hand every now and then. But no, it was nothing but excuses, and more excuses. You were the lady of the manor and we were your servants. I'm so fed up with you. Even this conversation is too much. Every message you send drains a little more of my energy. I want you out of my life.
Can't you see how dramatic you're being? Can we at least have more time? Please, let's just put the brakes on all of this for a little while longer. I'm begging you.
There will be no deferments. I've been deferring the whole time we'll live together. I'm done putting up with your crap.
What the devil is going on? Why is all of our stuff piled up outside in the yard?
I told you yesterday you were to be gone by tonight. Read through the chat logs if you're struggling. I also made it clear there would be no deferments.
Are you serious? You actually intend to kick us out onto the streets?
How many times do I have to tell you? I'm not as soft as Anthony was. Besides, you said it yourself. We're strangers, right?
Even so, that doesn't justify taking such extreme measures. You've crossed the line. My son would be so disappointed with you.
Nope, actually. I don't think you could be more wrong. In fact, this is actually what Anthony wanted. Everything that's happening right now is happening with his approval.
How the hell is that even possible? My son is dead.
He told me before he passed, of course. He apologized for the inhuman amounts of stress I had to endure as a result letting you two move in with us. He broke down and apologized profusely in floods of tears. Then he told me that he wanted me to cut all ties with you once he was gone.
Wait, what? There's no way my darling boy would ever say such a thing about his own mother.
To the contrary, he made it very clear. There's no doubt about it. He was racked with guilt and regret over letting you live with us and wanted to make up for it at all costs, which he still could. He even put it into writing. He must have known you wouldn't believe me and would try pulling every trick in the book to escape your fate.
No way. How could he do this? That boy used to do whatever I told him to.
Tell me, Sally, why do you think he did whatever you told you? Why do you think he went along with your absurd demands? Why do you think he tolerated your god-awful behavior for so long? Don't you think it's a little odd?
He didn't think the things I asked him to do were absurd. He was just a good boy with nothing but love and respect for his mother, plain and simple.
Interesting. How do you explain him calling you a toxic parent then? He was fully aware you were exploiting him. Plus, causing me stress and suffering was the last thing he wanted to do, which is why he did consider saying no and refusing to let you live with us.
Huh?
But he gave in and accepted it by the end. Why do you think that might be? I didn't understand it all the time. If my parents were as toxic as you, I'd have to cut them out of my life a long time ago. Sure, you might struggle to get by now. You're officially homeless. But that's not my problem.
Why, you ask? Why? Because my son was kind and caring. You and him couldn't have been any more different, you evil witch.
Bingo! No matter what selfish, manipulative scumbags you were his parents and he loved you. But one thing's for sure, he was the only person on this planet who was capable of that. Your single protector and ally is now gone.
Are you going somewhere with this? What exactly is your point?
You're pretty dense, huh? My point is, there's not a single person left in the world who loves you and your waste of space husband. Let's face it, you don't even love each other, do you? You're nothing more than a pair of pathetic vermin huddling together out of fear of being alone.
What did you just... Vermin? How dare you?
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you were always vermin.
Huh?
My husband told me everything. His childhood memories of you. He told me about how way back then, when your husband fell ill, you dropped everything to care for him around the clock. He told me about how you'd make up lunchboxes and take him for picnics, to the zoo or for scenic walks by the river. You took him anywhere and everywhere, and you stopped at nothing to make him happy, in spite of the illness.
My son told you all that?
But eventually you changed. You were around your rat of a husband for too long, and eventually you became vermin too. The only reason Anthony agreed to let you move in with us was because he remembered the good times. And he believed that somewhere, hidden away deep inside you, was the mom he used to know and love. He thought maybe you'd turn over a new leaf. I think he genuinely believed you when you said you were moving in to help out with the housework. And with looking after him, he accepted you with a heart full of hope.
Hope?
But that hope was smashed into tiny little pieces. You betrayed your son.
I betrayed him? What are you even saying? Surely you don't believe that.
There's an old candy tin in one of the boxes of your stuff out in the yard. Why didn't you take a look inside?
What is it?
It belonged to Anthony, but I have no need for it, so it's all yours.
I said, what is it?
Inside that tin is an origami gold medal. Remember it? Remember that time he caught an awful cold and had to drop out of the school track in field event? He'd been training so hard and couldn't wait to compete. He was so down in the dumps about the whole thing. So you made him that origami gold medal to make him feel better.
Huh? This is that thing I made 30 years ago? He kept this the whole time?
That medal meant the world to him because it reminded him of his precious childhood memories with you. He loved you. No matter how much you exploited and manipulated him, no matter how many good times you betrayed him.
Oh my god, I had no idea he felt that way.
It's too late to regret what you did now. Anthony's gone, and he's never coming back.
What else did he tell you? He told you all about his childhood memories, right? There must have been more. Tell me.
Oh, you're suddenly interested in your son now? I'm afraid I'm gonna have to say no. This has nothing to do with me.
Please, I'll apologize for everything if you tell me. I'm begging you.
The time of apologies has passed. There's no going back now. Anthony's gone. I hope you regret this. I hope the pain is unbearable, and I hope it tears away at your heart until the day you die. Now let me remind you one last time. This house is mine. Because I was the only one who gave your son the love he deserved. Not long after that, my father-in-law started causing a commotion outside the house, demanding I stop this nonsense at once and let them back in, but his wife soon shut him up. I can only think that what I said to her actually penetrated that big frosty wall around her heart. My mother-in-law, clutching that dirty old candy tin into her chest as if it was more important than life itself, took her husband and disappeared. I haven't heard from either of them ever since, and I heard through the grapevine that they ended up divorcing. It's been 2 years since I lost my husband now. I ran into his mom one time when I was laying some fresh flowers at his grave. As soon as she noticed me, she hung her head deep in shame and walked away, seeming to have none of the vigor or energy she was once so well known for. Something tells me she actually reflected on what she said, and used the whole tragedy as an opportunity to become a better human being. They do say every cloud has a silver lining. It's just a tragedy that the cost was so high. As for me, I'm still living in that same big old house in the country, surrounded by my cats and dogs, who I love and adore. We went through so much in this house, happiness and sadness, joy and misery, harmony and conflict. But strangely, the only things I remember vividly are the happy times me and Anthony shared together. That's why it'll always be an important place to me, and I intend to cherish and take good care of it for as long as I live.